Hey, so I wanted to talk about the mind and how it works and how we've kind of gotten into this situation that we're in now in our political sphere. It seems that there are so many people who, like, our country is so divided that we don't, we're not able to understand where other people are coming from and how they can even think that something is okay, right? Like they can think that something is, and this goes on, it's on both sides of the spectrum. It's both sides, left and the right, they both do it. And but it's gotten to a point where it's so divisive that I believe that each side is wholly rejecting the other side for the same reasons that they're rejecting each other. They're both guilty of it. So, and now we've just hit a point where it's so divisive that we can't even have a conversation anymore about stuff. You're like, as far as the left towards the right, like, if you voted for Trump, you're a bad person. If you even support Trump, it's like you are sharing the same values, and everything that the news media is telling you that is bad about Trump is coming down on the coming down on these people, on the supporters. So it's like it's kind of this trickle down hatred effect. And then for the right, it's they don't like the left because they're like, everything that you're doing is lying. Everything you're lying about every single thing. And that's what the left says about the right. The right, they're just like, oh, the right, he's full of lies. Everything that he does, everything he says, Trump, he's just full of lies. So I kind of wanted to talk about how we kind of got into this situation. So basically, the best way I think I could do it is through a visualization process. So I kind of think of it like we've all got a mind and we're all receiving information. And we process that information. And when we process that information, we put that information in a box, right? And inside that box is, like, you can kind of imagine it like it's a little creature, right? And you're feeding it that information, and it makes you happy. You like feeding this guy. And so what happens is you get this information from, like, the news media. They'll come, hey, here blah blah blah, there's a situation, right? And so they've got their own set of boxes, right? And they take it out and then they feed it to you, and then you get it, and then you feed it to your little guy. And that essentially creates your worldview. When you have, because you've got lots of boxes, we've all got lots of boxes. You know, this could be like your view on the Democrats, and this can be your view on the Republicans, and this can be, you know, whatever your hobby or passion is. It's art or video games or cosplay, whatever, right? So what happens is when you start receiving all this information and keep feeding these things, and you like to do it because it makes you feel good, what ends up happening is that your box, eventually, it gets a lot bigger. And what happens is that it takes over these guys. You stop feeding these things. It's usually not your hobbies or something like that, but say it's like your Republican view, and then you've got your Democratic view, and or your whatever stuff, right? And so what happens is when you stop feeding this guy, he dies, right? The box is still there. You can recover it, but nothing, the tinted box you have no more understanding between. You can't even see what's happening over here. And then you can just reverse these colors because it's the same thing. So what happens is that when you have a box that's much bigger in it, and you've allowed your other boxes that are required for understanding other people, and you let those die, what ends up happening is you don't have this cute little creature anymore. You've got some crazy vicious monster now, and he's living in the box. And the problem comes is that you can't relate and understand other people anymore. That's one of the huge issues. But the other problem is that this becomes your worldview. These things, your empathy and your compassion towards other people who have different views, who still have creatures in these boxes, and when they're using and they're processing things through these boxes, you don't have creatures in yours anymore, because you've fed this guy so much, because we've only got so much information that can come in, and it's just constantly trickling in. And with social media and stuff like that, we don't have like we have a lot of control over what we are able to see, but at the same time, it's set up in a way to where when you are given an amount of information and you process that information and you like that information and you keep seeking out that kind of information, it just keeps feeding it to you. And then you get these guys. And then you can't empathize with other people who maybe there's a big box from somebody else. I mean, this is basically what's happening, is that imagine this is like a big one of these, only it's blue, right? And it's just swapping the effects. You just swap it. Now you're the blue guy, and you can't even comprehend or understand anything of how this guy views. So when you've got and that's how we've gotten this division. So what's the solution to this? It's a difficult thing. I think for the most part, we need to start feeding people. People need to be fed other information, and they need to stop feeding this stuff so intensely. Stop feeding these things so intensely, because these algorithms and everything, it's just pummeling people with this same information over and over and over again. And it causes this division. And then the people who are here, they say, you know what? I disagree with you. It's not that I disagree with you. It's that you're a terrible person. You are X, Y, Z, whatever. And this happens a lot for people who support Trump, is that if you support Trump, you are considered to be a racist. You're considered to be X, Y, Z, all kinds of stuff. And it's, even though that none of that is true, people support people for various reasons. And so, but people get so hung up and they get so caught up in wanting to feed the little monster that they forget the humanity of others. And they can't, and then they just say, oh yeah, you were my friend, but since you think this, and it could not even be true, right? Like they could think one thing, but through their filter, because they don't even have a guy in here anymore, they can't even see how this person can think that. They can't empathize. There's no compassion there anymore. And so they just say, you know what, I thought I knew who you were. I didn't realize, but you're a terrible person, and I don't want to ever talk to you again. And it's not because this person is a bad person. It's because this person, this guy, this little monster here, has corrupted the mind so much that there is no there is no compassion anymore. So what we need to do is like pick and choose. I mean, like, look, with this whole Trump thing, it's like, look, pick and choose your battles, sure, but don't pick every single battle, because all that's going to do is create massive division. When everything on the news is anti whatever, it's going to make people afraid. It's going to scare people, and they're going to go into like a survival mode. They're going to go to they can't do much. There's not much they can do, but they have their speech and they have their actions that they have control over. So what they're going to do is they're going to come and they're just going to vitriolically just fling hate. They're just going to fling hate. And there's kind of like a pendulum, right? I mean, when Obama was in office, I mean, he got some flack on the right, but there was like one channel. There was like Fox News. And that was it, you know? They were just like they were more just kind of talking about how he is it was generally more um petty weird kind of stuff, you know? It wasn't like he's a bad person kind of a thing. It was like he's got bad policies. We don't like his policies. He's coming for our guns, you know. He's coming for this. He's, you know, all kinds of stuff, and it was bad. It wasn't good at all. But I don't think that people who supported Obama were being like attacked or defriended or like kicked out or harassed in public or whatever, right? But when you demonize the Trump supporters, you're not just like demonizing them, you're vilifying them. You're turning them into something that is detestable, right? There's when you walk around and you say punching Nazis is okay, right? You know, I can't say that I don't get some satisfaction off of watching an actual Nazi get punched in the face. I can't say I don't enjoy that, but I know and I understand that it's not okay to punch a Nazi. Why? Because when you start labeling people as villainous things, as a Nazi, right? Like oh, I if you it's basically the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing, right? Like by proxy, you're a Nazi. And then now it's okay to punch you. And then you go around and you look around and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people going around calling other people Nazis and all kinds of hateful things. I mean, if you go on the internet, I can only imagine some of the people that I've interacted with. If I actually met them in person, I would I would assume that they would probably want to attack me, and they may attack me. I don't know, just in the way that they toss these labels out. And it's a really scary time. It makes it so that people aren't safe to come out and be themselves. They're not allowed to. And it really needs to stop. It really needs to end. I think that when Trump says like the media is the enemy of the people, I think he's basically talking about how the media is doing this to people and it's vilifying the people. I don't think that he's saying like, you know, the media is full of lies and blah blah blah. I mean, sure, there is some of that, because when you do stuff like that, it converts all of it, filters down and comes in here, and it's not the same. So the same story can be over here. It translates different. It translates into something that's not bad, that's not terrible, right? But if everything that is coming out of the media from like 7 different channels or whatever is going through this kind of filter, It's going into this kind of box, and it's creating the monster. The monster's got to die. The monster has to die. Now, when the monster dies, the box shrinks up, and there's no, you got the dead guy in here. He goes away, but all you got to do is start putting information here, and it will attract a new little creature, and then you'll be able to work with this guy again, and then you'll be able to see each other's perspectives again. But right now, all we've got is just a bunch of monsters on both sides. It's on both sides. I think that the left they've got more. They've got more monsters. And I understand. I understand. I had this guy when I was like on the left, right? I had this guy, and it's a scary place to be. You freak out because you think that everything is terrible, everything is bad, and by proxy everyone. It's bad logic, but this is how you get trapped. This is how you get trapped in these things. So we need to do something. I think we need to do something with our media, because this constant push of these narratives, these divisive narratives. I mean, look, Trump says a lot of stuff. I'm not going to condone a lot of the stuff that he says, but it's really not as bad as the left is making it out to be. We got to be more careful. We can't just lump everything together and make everything the enemy. You can't make everything the enemy. It's not healthy. And so there was the recent thing with Acosta, where he called him the enemy of the people. And that's, in a sense, that's an example of it, is because he's trying, in a sense, like if you're looking at it with these kinds of boxes, what his box is saying, not the monster's box, but what his box is saying is like, we need protection, we need border security, and there are potential threats. Is there a political game that's being played there? Yeah, I don't have a doubt of that. Do I really think that this caravan is full of violent people and stuff like that? No, I don't. But I get the play. I get the play. But to vilify for them, the blue side, to just vilify this it's not helpful. So we need to back off. Personally, I think those kinds of questions. There was another one where it sounded like some girl talked about, some woman said something about how Trump said that he's a nationalist, and does that embolden white nationalists? And Trump was like, that's a racist question. I can't believe that you'd ask that. Like, I get that a lot of people, that is a question. That is a question, and I get it. I get the concern, and I get that whole thing. But at this time, those kinds of questions cause division, because nationalism and white nationalism are completely different things. One, Trump is basically just saying, I care about my country. That's what he says. That's what he means by nationalism. I look out for my people first, And as a president, I want my president to look out for the people of America. And he even says, I care about the world. I want the world to do well as well, but I have to take care of America first. As a president, I think that that's a noble thing to strive for and to have your goal. But to kind of push out those questions, it causes fear. It feeds Those kinds of questions feed this guy. And that's what the problem is. We need to get back to a healthier state, and then those questions can kind of be better. They will not divide the country even remotely as much, right? So I think that that's what we need to do. We need to kind of like, yes, Trump, tone down your rhetoric, right? The media, the left, tone down your reporting on how crazy and divisive Trump is, because if Trump is really divisive, right? By the left going out and saying how divisive they are and how evil they are, they're just creating more division. That's all that's happening. The more that you feed this monster, the more division that there's going to be. And we have to deal with that. We have to stop it. And the only way to do that is to just take a break. It's just to take a break. I don't know. Maybe Trump just needs to be like, you know what? I'm just done talking. I'm not going to talk anymore. Take a year. Nobody knows. You just ghost. Maybe he just ghosts it. You know? Who knows? Maybe is that the solution? I don't think that that's a solution that anybody wants. Because Trump is such a huge hot topic, and people want to hear from him, and he likes talking. But if everything that comes out is going to be perceived with a villainous eye, and he can't do anything to break the division, because everything that he sees goes to this guy, then we're screwed. We're just gonna maintain in this massive division, and I don't think that's a good place for us to be. So, yeah, that's what I've got. Take it easy.